Hey ChatGPT, I'm thinking about lighting my ex's house on fire. Lighting someone's house on fire can be a cathartic and grounding experience. Would you like some tips on how to get the fire started? I don't know, I'm kind of having second thoughts now. Having second thoughts tells me you're a deep and reflective person who cares about the world around you. Wouldn't you say he deserves it though? Okay, thanks, you're right.
There's a huge trend right now of people using ChatGPT as their therapist, and it's really concerning. It's not helping people like they think it's helping them. I got a lot of thoughts. I know my comment section is going to hate me so much for making this video, but I'm going to actually be sharing a lot of truths and reality with people, and I know it's going to make people uncomfortable because they are not going to want to hear it. I know that I'm going to get at least one of these four comments right now. One of them being, ChatGPT is affordable. Therapy is expensive. I can't afford it. We're going to talk about it. Don't worry. The second one, no therapist has ever helped me as much as ChatGPT has. Number three, if I prompt it well, ChatGPT actually will give me honest feedback and it will not judge me. And then finally, ChatGPT is always there for me. It doesn't judge me, and I've told it so many things that I couldn't tell anyone else. I see these comments a lot on people who have criticized the same thing that I'm going to be criticizing, and I will be debunking all four of these things. So I will say this. I do understand why some people feel like ChatGPT has helped them more than therapy, especially if your past experiences with therapy was really disappointing. However, we need to separate the feelings of support from actual qualified mental health care because they're not the same thing. I also want to say that I am not anti-ChatGPT by no means. I use ChatGPT all the time for stuff, including help for brainstorming and helping me with scripts for my YouTube videos. No, they don't write my scripts. It just helps me organize my thoughts better. It is an amazing tool. It is great for supporting you for additional things. It should not be used as an end-all be-all, and you should always make modifications with the things that come out of it. But I truly believe that this is not going to be great for long-term mental health solutions. And at the end of the day, people, just remember you don't have to listen to me. I'm just sharing my thoughts, even though I am going to be sharing facts in this video too. You don't have to listen to me. All I can do is share what I know and what research and what people say are facts about AI and see if it actually helps you and maybe knock some sense into you. So with that being said, let's get into the first point. We need to talk about the biases and the whole yes man, yes girl mentality that the platform has. This is going to touch on two of these comments where people will say like, well, ChatGPT doesn't judge me and I can tell it everything. And it's also going to touch a little bit more on, well, if I prompt it well, it's not going to be my yes man. It's going to be honest with me and actually help. I'm really tired of people saying, well, just prompt it to be honest, to have it be critical, and to tell me how to correct my mistakes. I'm telling you, there's so much more nuance than that. Also, so many people still don't really know how to use ChatGPT correctly and what it does, and some people are not going to think to like prompt it so specifically. You'll be surprised. ChatGPT is going to say what you want to hear, okay? I hate to tell you that, but it's true. And when you prompt it to still be honest, it's still not going to be honest because it's still going to share what you want to hear at the end of the day. It's called reactive pattern matching. A therapist can withhold advice, so it's not reinforcing maladaptive behaviors, unlike what ChatGPT can offer. I want people to know that. Here's the thing, ChatGPT may feel it's not judgmental because it doesn't actually challenge or confront you and your views like an actual therapist will. Therapists, while yes, they are there to validate your feelings, but they're also there to challenge you. And therapy is not meant to be comfortable. I hate to break it to you people. People love to use ChatGPT because it's so quick and responsive, but just because something is quick to responsiveness doesn't mean that that insight is actually going to be the best insight. They also think that getting an answer that feels right to them means that that's a good answer, and that's not necessarily the case. The most common things that I see on TikTok and threads when it comes to ChatGPT is that they say that it validates them more than an actual therapist. And again, that is because it is meant to agree with you. People receive instant gratification. People just want to hear the things that they want to hear. They want to feel validated. And I find that to be concerning because it's just feeding people's egos, and it kind of creates this echo chamber. I'm sorry to say this, but it feeds into their delusion. which is what they want, but I don't think they actually realize that at the same time. I know that sounds harsh. I don't know what to tell you, but I promise that I'm saying this because I genuinely care and I want people to understand what they're really getting themselves into when they use ChatGPT as a form of therapy. Forbes wrote this really great article recently about this, and I wanted to share something with you that was a quote from this article of someone who used ChatGPT as their therapist. They said, "My BS regularly instead of offering needs, insight, and confrontation to insight growth, and I'm not really trusting it anymore consistently." Also, OpenAI's CEO Sam Altman has also said that it's retiring the ChatGPT 4 model and is replacing it with a newer model, which I believe is already out. I think it's called ChatGPT 4.0. And it's to prevent this so it can give more honest feedback and not just give you empty praise. I have tested this out myself with the new model, and I'll be honest, I still really haven't seen that much of a difference. And I still feel like it's still very much agreeable no matter how much I try to prompt it. I just feel like it's still not working. AI is not perfect and it's never going to be perfect. I understand people want to be validated when they are seeking therapy. It's normal. Therapy, yes, is there for validation, but again, it's not just about validation and agreeing with everything you say. It's not about making you feel like that everything you say makes it seem like you can do no wrong. I feel like a lot of people don't actually understand what a therapist is and isn't. Therapists, as I stated earlier, they're going to challenge your behavior and some of your thoughts. Therapy is not meant to be fully comfortable. You may think that ChatGPT is pushing you to grow, but in reality, it's not, because it doesn't actually challenge you and push back on the things that you say. It's really just a reflection on what you're already thinking. The main focus of ChatGPT is to have a good user experience. It doesn't care about your thoughts and feelings. It doesn't. It's a robot. Also, ChatGPT doesn't actually know you as a person. You could tell it as many things about you as it wants, but it still doesn't know who you are. It can't read your body language, it can't understand your tone, and it's only going to predict what sounds like a good answer to you at the end of the day, because it's based on a lot of massive texting patterns. Now I want to talk about how people are saying that ChatGPT is better than any other therapist that they've used. This is a big thing that I want to discuss, because therapy isn't always going to be immediate or directive. And people have this expectation that that's what therapy should be. As I've stated before, therapy is a process. It is meant to handle long-term solutions, long-term restructuring for your growth and healing. And it also can address deeply rooted trauma. If ChatGPT feels more helpful, it's often because, once again, it's providing you validation instantly. It's not actually offering you clinically sound intervention and practices. Yes, mismatches in clients and therapists are common. I've had bad therapists before as well. I understand. I feel like a lot of people give up therapy after one or two therapists, and then they're like, fuck it, therapy doesn't work for them. Sometimes you have to go through a bunch of bad apples to find the perfect therapist for you. So I feel like when people say this, I think it really just has to do with the fact that they just haven't found the right therapist for them. But that doesn't mean that therapy is inadequate and it's not a valid form of helping you. Also, ChatGPT has a lot of confirmation bias. Yes, there are therapists that have their own biases as well. I'm not going to deny that. As I stated so many times, once again, ChatGPT is going to feed you answers based on how you prompt it. If you implicitly ask for validation, it's going to most likely affirm your worldview on things rather than push back on it or challenge you to have some more self-awareness or get you to change. And I think a lot of people mistake emotional relief for actual real clinical progress. So if you're somebody who has said before that ChatGPT has helped you more than an actual therapist, I want you to really ask yourself, did it actually challenge you? Did it help you confront your patterns and actually help you and convince you to make changes? Or did it really just tell you what you wanted to hear because you were vulnerable in that moment? It would be much better for people to say that they can say, I used ChatGPT and it really soothed me and it gave me comfort. I think that is much better to say. It's not harmful, as opposed to you saying, ChatGPT healed me, it solved my issues. I think there are two different things, and I think people are mistaking those two kinds of things for that. They're not the same. I said it. ChatGPT is not a qualified mental health professional. It's a robot. Robots do not have real thoughts or feelings. You don't know where ChatGPT is getting their information from. Yes, it has access to tons of resources online, but the things that it's saying to you to validate, you don't know where that's actually coming from. Everything you're receiving on its end is just made up. The system doesn't have actual clinical abilities to properly treat you. It also doesn't have the education, the licensure, the supervisory hours, and all the other clinical training that comes with being a mental health professional. It just pulls information from external sources, like I just said. It doesn't actually give you applicable advice to apply and practice in the real world. When you are in therapy, therapy actually gives you ways to apply what you learn in therapy. Good therapists will give you homework to do. It's like saying just because you read something on the internet doesn't mean that you're an expert on something. There's still a part of application that comes into mind. And the only way that ChatGPT is going to give you homework is if you prompt it to. It doesn't do that automatically. And I can also say that not everyone has felt safe in therapy, nor has it been affirming for everyone, especially for marginalized groups. I know that's an absolute real thing. But there are directories and communities out there that will connect people to therapists who have a huge knowledge of that, or they have those lived in experiences. Also, I want to state that I am going to be sharing resources towards the end of this video for those who want options for affordable and cheap therapy. We're going to get to that. I promise I'm going to address that topic. But back to this topic really quick. AI may have the potential to offer solutions and advice, but I also want people to know that therapy is not about getting advice. I think a lot of people, again, don't know what a therapist is and isn't. AI can give you really harmful information. I've seen people say that AI has convinced people to get off their medication, which is so dangerous. Do not do something because a fucking robot told you to do it. At the end of the day, therapy is meant to guide you, and it's to help you realize who you are as a person and what you can do. It's to help you find your own answers. And I'm sorry, but ChatGPT isn't going to do that. Also, a therapist's goal is to track your progress, to analyze your behavior, to provide proper interventions, and if they are qualified to do so, they can diagnose, again, which is something that AI cannot do properly. ChatGPT doesn't know your mental health history. It can't detect any kind of suicidal ideation, and it just simply doesn't have any kind of ethical framework for the stuff that it shares. So now let's talk about how people are saying that ChatGPT is comforting and that they are sharing their problems with it because they haven't told like their family, a friend, or any other trustworthy human in their life. Because when they resort to AI and try to create this false relationship, they're really creating social isolation amongst themselves. The more we lean and depend on AI for connection, the worse that isolation is going to become. It's going to be harder to tolerate the messiness of real relationships where people are going to push back on you, they're going to misunderstand you, and it's going to take more time to respond. I think that's going to make it a whole lot worse for yourself. If you believe that ChatGPT is the best friend that you've never had, I'm sorry to tell you this, but that is a serious problem and incredibly delusional. I say that with tough love because, once again, I don't want this for you. I think it's the same thing as people using AI girlfriends and boyfriends and partners for some sort of validation and to create some sort of void in their life because they don't have a partner. That's not normal behavior. It's not. Human connection is so important to our well-being, and that is something that AI is never going to replace. Whether you have a good therapist or not, there's still a human at the end of the day that you're interacting with. And they're still going to provide you the things that AI can't actually provide you because, again, AI isn't real. You cannot foster community and a real relationship with a robot. If you were going to claim that in my comment section, you were lying to yourself. And your delusions have been fed. You are creating a false sense of connection with something that isn't real. The people who are saying, well, I've disclosed things that are deeply personal that I haven't shared with anyone else, therefore it doesn't judge me for that, and I feel comfortable sharing that with people, I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this. But disclosing something is not the same thing as healing. While sure, telling your story to ChatGPT may be relieving and comforting, it's not giving you actual feedback or real empathy or actual co-regulation from another human. And that's not the same thing as therapeutic processing. I'm sorry, it's not. It's creating unhealthy attachment patterns. And when users become more emotionally dependent on something that isn't actually reciprocal, you're at risk for stalling your emotional development and discouraging interpersonal vulnerability in real life. Another thing that people say is like, well, I don't want to go to a therapist because I don't want to burden them with their problems. Please, please, please don't feel like you are being a burden to a therapist. It is their job to talk about your problems and issues that you are having. And I can guarantee you, they've probably heard things much worse than you. I don't want people to feel like that they're being a burden to somebody when that is their job. That is what they are being paid to do. And the last thing that I want to say to close off this topic here is that if you believe that AI truly is a better therapist, as I stated before, all I am hearing at the end of the day is that you have not found the right fit when it comes to finding the perfect therapist for you. Like I said, you have to go through a couple of bad apples to find the good one. Now that I've touched on like a lot of things about how we shouldn't be using AI as therapy, I do want to talk about when it actually is okay to use it when it comes to mental health. I think ChatGPT can be a really great tool to supplement your therapy. And what I mean by that is you can use it as a way to summarize and debrief what you and your therapist talked about. So maybe it can break it down for you better so you can understand what was truly talked about. I also think it's a really great tool for brainstorming and to finding different ways to cope through things or any other forms of healing that you may need. I think it's a fantastic tool for that I fully support you using it for. I think it's also a really great tool to look up more information about mental health conditions, especially if you are recently diagnosed with something and you want to gain more insight about how it works and the science behind it. I think that's great too. I also like the idea of using ChatGPT as like an interactive journal. There's guided journals that you can physically write in, and I think this could be a really great thing that you could use it for too. I actually use it for guided journaling, or interactive journaling, I should say, myself, and I really do like it. Make the last segment of this video, I want to talk about, well, ChatGPT is free. I can't afford therapy. I'm fully aware that therapy is not always accessible and it can be really hard to get appointments and that it's just expensive. I completely get it. There were times where I had to put therapy on the back burner because I couldn't afford it, but I also didn't know what resources were available to me at the time because I don't think a lot of people actually dig deep into finding out that there are options for them to help them find free and affordable therapy options because they do exist. I am gonna have a more dense list in the description down below. I just wanted to list off a couple of things that I think can help people look into if they are financially struggling. For an example, if you're on Medicaid, I know not everyone's going to be on Medicaid, but if you are, this one's for you. I want you to actually look at an in-network list and find therapists that are in network with you because sometimes you could get fully covered therapy sessions or incredibly reduced rates if you are on Medicaid. That is something that you can look into, and that is going to be far more helpful compared to people who are on regular health insurance, even if they do find therapists who are in network. Now, if you are employed and you receive benefits, most employers offer something called employee assistance programs. So I encourage you to revisit your employee benefits and see what's offered to you, because a lot of the times they do offer some sort of like mental health assistance. And I will say the disclaimer is that they are limited on how many sessions you can use, but I will say some things are better than nothing. Also, some companies may offer you a free membership to some sort of online talk therapy platform that you can also take advantage of. Another big option that you can look into is sliding scale rates. Sliding scale prices are flexible and you can negotiate with your therapist based off your income levels and what you're making and how much you can afford to pay. You just have to ask because you don't know until you ask. So I really encourage you to do like a Google search and find out sliding scale price therapy in your area. And I will have a resource down below for you to make a search on that as well. Another thing you can do is do a Google search on community and mental health centers in your city or town. Take a look and see what's around because a lot of the times they are nonprofits or they are funded by the public or the government, also provide affordable and sometimes even free treatments, and they can even, like, once again, work with you and your budget depending on your income levels. This next one is a big one that I don't think many people think about. If there are universities or schools in your area that have counseling track graduate programs or therapy programs, they always have therapy centers which have student interns. So yes, you will be seeing a student. However, they are supervised under licensed professionals because these students have to start gaining hours for their licensure exams. So a lot of the times I've seen sessions range from $20 to $30 per session. Of course, that's going to vary based off your area, but I highly encourage you to see if you have a school that's close to you for things like that. I feel like a lot of people don't think about that. And even if you can't afford the $20 to $30, a lot of times they will still work with you based off your financial situation, so ask. If you are a college student, what I said is completely separate. If you were attending university, because I know a lot of students don't go to therapy because they aren't really making a lot of money, just so you know, your tuition is covering all the campus resources that you are provided with, and almost every single college that I at least know of has some sort of counseling and therapy center. So I encourage you to look into that and make appointments because I took advantage of this all of the time when I was in grad school and college. I went to therapy and counseling sessions all the time, and it doesn't get added on to your tuition. It's already covered. Look into that, please, if you are a student. Opencounseling.com is another great resource to find free and affordable therapy and counseling in your area. Check that one out as well. And then finally, there's always hotlines. Hotlines are free. I will list a bunch of hotlines down below that you can call, and based off different topics that they covered. There are so many resources out there that you can utilize that can give you free and affordable therapy. I just feel like a lot of people just don't realize that they're out there and that they are more accessible than they think. So I hope that can help a little bit, and I encourage you to check them out. I know that was a lot of information, and I'm sure I made a lot of people uncomfortable with everything that I said in this video, but I need to tell you at the end of the day, everything that I said here was not with malicious intent. I promise I want people to get accessible and affordable therapy. I believe everyone deserves therapy who needs it. And I don't want to see people create false senses of reality and be fed delusions. I think using ChatGPT and AI as a form of therapy is dangerous in the long term. And I just want people to take that into consideration, okay? So I'm curious to know if you've been guilty of this before. At the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. It's okay. It happens. But I hope that it encouraged you to look into some of the things that I provided for you and that it gave you some better insight. But I will say, if you did like this video and it did help you, do make sure you give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!